Welcome to the Bullpen Report. It is May 14th, Saturday here, about a week later after my last one. Taking a look at some of the same situations a little bit, also touched on some guys that returned. One of the main names, obviously, Aroldis Chapman, came in and returned. He's made 2 appearances so far. Already has notched his first save. Has allowed a run, 3 strikeouts in 2 innings, so he looked, remotely obviously shaking off some rust. Going to be a top 3 closer going the rest of the way. Obviously, you knew that already, but still, definitely worth mentioning here. Rack up some strikeouts. Miller's kind of that guy. Also, if Chapman anything happens, obviously he would step back into play. Also, another guy we touched on last week, Zach Britton, came back since then. 4 perfect innings, 2 strikeouts. Looks very much in control. This Detroit series, he's picked up the first 2 saves there, so he's looked great. No issues there. In the AL East still, Brad Boxberger still going to work his way back into the closer role for Tampa. Alex Colomé still should be kept in your team regardless of what happens there, just because of how solid he's been. The temporary closer there, he's picked up 4 strikeouts and 1 save since the last time I've been on here. He just continues to be electric in the 9th. So I really like him a lot. If you're in a holds league, I think regardless of what happens to him. But Boxberger, he still needs to come back and prove that he's going to be healthy and efficient. We need to see that sort of stuff before he really kind of dump Colomé if you're in a non-holds league. So the Angels bullpen situation, I talked about Joe Smith. Obviously, just very shaky outings for what he comes in and does. He's not suited for a closer role. Low strikeout rate, 4.91 FIP on the season. Still, a guy who by Fernando Salas here picked the save yesterday. He's not tremendously better, but he is far better than what Joe Smith brings to the table. Slightly better K percentage. He's really not anything special, but with the way Joe Smith has pitched this season, I think that could be something that they turn over, especially if it happens once again out here. Cingrani, he's the guy who is listed as the closer. 4.17 FIP on the season, a 14.5% walk rate. You don't like that. He has converted 2 saves in the last 4 outings there. Has also allowed 5 base runners in that span and 1 home run. If Cingrani falters, they don't have a lot to fall back on to load it into the minor leagues. But obviously, the minor leagues is just a different platform. You're facing weaker opponents, so you take that lightly. But if he was to come back, and they're not giving many teams or many chances to save games, so that's one thing that kind of makes this situation very unappealing. But with Glenn Perkins out, Kevin Jepsen hasn't been great. With those numbers and what he's doing, it's just kind of a killer for your fantasy teams right now. So I think you kind of avoid that situation for the meantime. Next one I want to talk about here is Texas. Obviously the second worst bullpen ERA at the moment this year, and the back end is a little bit concerning. Sean Tolson, 11 saves this season, so he's bringing it to you in that department, but a 5.40 ERA to go with a 4.20 FIP. Not too appealing there. 2 rocky outings in his last 4 appearances. His swinging strike rate is down 3% from his career norm. It's a little bit concerning. The only thing is he doesn't have a lot of people backing him that can come in and take the job away. Sam Dyson has a 3% strikeout rate is far much better than what Dyson brings to the table. And if Tolson keeps kind of being a little bit rocky, you could see that slip into a situation. So not much else. I did talk about the Phillies last week. Obviously, that situation's been a little bit under scrutinized, but they have looked fairly well over the last week or 2. And that Phillies team's starting to kind of shore up a little bit. But Jimar Gomez still going to be a guy who picks up an eye out just in case any more faltering occurs in that situation. But there are some guys to fall back on, so definitely keep an eye on that situation. That's going to wrap it up with the Saturday Bullpen Report. Be sure to check out Fantasy Baseball Cafe for our forums and all our great content.